Hey everyone, this is Robert with goldsilverpros.com. I'm here with two very special guests today. David Tafel, who's the CEO and director of Portofino Gold Resources, and Stephen Wilkinson, who's also director of the company. How are you guys doing today?
Doing very well.
Well, thanks for jumping on the program. I wanted to reach out to you guys because I know that you have an interesting gold play there in Canada, as well as a secondary lithium project that we wanted to talk about. Real quick though, I wanted to discuss what's going on in the market and how that may reflect an overall bull market for gold or a bear market for gold. We've got a lot of spending coming out. I think with the new administration here in the United States, it looks like the Biden administration wants to spend. We've already approved 1.9 trillion, and it looks like we're heading toward another 2 trillion or so, with maybe another 2 trillion coming later this year. So we may be looking at 6 trillion total additional spending this year in the American economy. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what the overall economic outlook is in this environment of the new administration and the spending that they're doing.
David, go ahead.
Steve, I was going to defer to you, but I think I will still. We certainly have our opinions. I think they're probably similar. Steve, just by way of background, is an MBA and also has a master's in geology. Was an analyst with Royal Bank here, an analyst in the mining space. Royal Bank is the largest bank in the country, and so I think Steve is certainly well positioned to provide some thoughts on the gold space and the economic situation right now.
Okay, that gives me a chance to think. Now, right now, my feeling is, and I'm hearing it from a lot of the sort of market analysts that are out there right now, we seem to be turning the corner with respect to general markets. This COVID has knocked the heck out of everybody. It's changed how we do business, when we do business, how much business is being done. And if you just look back a year ago, I mean, it was like we had hit the Great Depression, really. So that we're bouncing along off of that. We keep having good weeks, bad weeks, and so forth. But we're seeing the labor market in both countries picking up, which is really positive, despite the fact that we've got our third wave upon us and all these variants. But you can't hold the economy back forever, and it will start turning. And I think the market and the economy is going to be developing in directly proportion to the number of vaccines that are stuck in people's arms. That's going to be a measure that nobody's really looking at, but I think it's going to be pretty obvious, because you get comfortable with travel, you get comfortable with going out, buying goods, and so forth, and that's good for all the natural resources, the metals in particular. And so that's my feeling, is optimism, and certainly we're at a good space in the market for just about anybody who's got advanced projects like we do. So
yeah, that's a good point. I know that they're starting to open up some of the markets here in the States, and as the markets open, I would expect that we would have a healthier demand for gold and minerals in general. I didn't know what your thoughts were on that as well.
Well, certainly the gold market is a market that's driven by two things, primarily by sentiment. The old rule of thumb is the US dollar gains, gold doesn't. Isn't necessarily applicable nowadays. The demand feature is the second part of the marketplace, and of course demand's filled by the investment portion of the buyers, but also on the industrial uses. And I include jewelry with that, and nations like India are great drivers for gold. We're not anywhere near the buying season, for the Indian gold, old gold group, but we'll be entering that over the summer. And at a time when the economy is starting to open up, people are feeling better, buying little trinkets for their girlfriends and wives. I think that's and the industrial uses in the electronics industries are going to drive our metals, and gold is an important component of that too.
And Dave, I know the central banks have been buying a lot over the last 10 years. We've been seeing charts about how that the selling from the central banks has turned around. We see China and Russia buying quite a bit, but it looks like the European central banks are also getting involved. What's your outlook there in terms of for gold when the central banks are in sort of a buying spree right now?
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, certainly as the central banks are buying, they are traditionally the ones that take up any slack in the marketplace, so that you end up with a pretty balanced market on an annual basis. As soon as you turn around and have them on more hungry and taking on more physical value in their central banks, gold's got no place to go but up. It may not skyrocket, but we've seen for a couple of years now, certainly a nice steady increase overall in the price of gold, and I think that there's going to be another long-term bull market for gold, and gold will be a precursor for copper, lithium, zinc. But the only metals I'm not overly hopeful on are things like the more traditional battery metals like lead, since we're recycling them so well right now. But all the rest are pretty open for gains.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know copper and zinc have been doing very well this year. Lithium also has turned up pretty well. So it seems like the investment into the mining space has come back, and the interest in the mining space has definitely come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the highest dividend payers in the marketplace was Rio Tinto for quite a while this year. So, so I think that as a mining house with a diversified production base, it's a pretty good harbinger. What the as you go down the food chain to the juniors, we could be looking forward to some good times too there.
Yeah, and we haven't quite seen the miners recover in terms of, we know the earnings are doing very well, especially the precious metals miner, gold and silver ticking up quite a bit last year. But it doesn't seem as though the valuations in the mining companies has quite come about, on the back of that. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. When do you think the mining companies are going to catch a bid here?
Wow, well, we're facing a couple of pretty strong competitors, and this is very similar to things that happened, in the sort of as we entered the new millennium when we had the tech bubble taking place. We've got money that's going to a lot of different places right now. I mean, the Bitcoin, for instance, is attracting a lot of money right now, but it's a tiny market. I think it was Frank Holmes I heard speak the other day about the fact that he doesn't see it as true competition, but he sees it as a switch away from the fiat currencies, just as we're people who want to get away from the fiat currencies have been going into gold. So it might take a little bit of the speculative money out of the gold market, but certainly I think as you start seeing earnings take place and comparables hit, then you're going to see the mining companies start to shine a little bit, and then with their share prices going up, that'll trigger something that's very important to David and I, in that it'll trigger the merger and takeover market. And as you get more and more majors and mid-sized companies looking down the chain at the juniors and seeing good projects coming along, that'll be when the juniors will start taking off. And I think we're starting to see that right now, actually.
Yeah, I do too. And I think this is the perfect time to get into the juniors, because so many of them are undervalued to either their cash flows or their net asset value. And it doesn't look like the market's really looking at it. So we've been highlighting a lot of juniors exploration companies here on our channel for the last 6 or 7 months. And I want to bring you guys on because you have some really interesting projects. You're primarily out in the Red Lake and Anacocan districts. And then you also have a lithium play there as well. Perhaps you can give us a breakdown of your Red Lake and your Anacocan gold projects.
Certainly. You want me to do that too, Dave?
Sure. I maybe just preface by giving a little bit of background on the company just for a moment. Sure. Our group took over a small junior called Portofino Resources about 4 years ago. We then acquired a few properties in Argentina in the lithium space. Lithium was prices were quite good. There was some very strong investor interest. That did not last for too long, and subsequently prices dropped, investor interest dropped. We ended up divesting a couple of our properties, sold those, and we kept one of them called the Jurgo property that we felt was probably our best property, but had an awful lot of work to do still. And our holding costs were so minimal that it really cost us very little just to maintain. While that period of lithium interest waned, the investor interest started to increase somewhat in the precious mineral space. We then started acquiring a number of properties in Canada, in northwestern Ontario, two in particular that I'll let Steve talk about. One close to, in Red Lake, very close to Great Bear Resources, which has had a fabulous number of discoveries there in the gold space in particular. And another one in the Atikokan Thunder Bay area called the Gold Creek property. That one we're actually drilling right now. So I'll let Steve go into those two properties. Maybe I'll just first say that we've also, because lithium has had a pretty good run, it's come back, prices have increased. We've started to do some additional work in Argentina on our lithium property, and we're just about to announce results of a geophysical survey on that. But Steve, perhaps you can talk further about the Northern Ontario properties.
Yep. Okay. That sounds good. Of the 5 properties that Portofino is showing on this map, 2 of them are prominent ones. The south of Otter property, which is in amongst the upper left part of the map there, very close to Red Lake, is very, very interesting because it is one that's seen a little bit of historical work over the years, but it's been very limited because for the most part, there's no exposure to bedrock. So the traditional prospectors haven't been able to map and sample much of the exposure, the few that are there. Our team started going in and did look for outcrops, particularly in areas that were recently logged, and of course that's a real bonus to us right now. And certainly we've had a couple of really nice little hits. We have a discovery in vein material on the south of Otter, which we've been following up on. We've had a couple of other areas that we've trenched, which gave us a secondary discovery. And we followed up on that using a process called SGH soil sampling. And this SGH soil sampling has allowed us to basically look through this heavy overburden areas for places where there looks like there's going to be some pretty good gold, silver, and some places copper sulfide mineralization. So we're looking forward to putting the drills on those anomalies later this year. Currently, we're just finishing off the drill program in our Shipbandawan area, the Atikokan property called Gold Creek, aptly named. And we've been building a very sizable property there, several thousand hectares of ground. And it's focused on what we call the Mattawan Gold Belt. The Mattawan Belt is been known for probably 100 years, but it's been a tricky one for traditional prospectors and mining groups to work on. And our team has gone in. They've done some sampling on the different exposure that they had there, and again on a new outcrop, the side of a new logging road. We made a further gold discovery on strike from other occurrences, and we've had the drill on there, and we haven't got any assays back yet, but it's showing very positive signs of alteration, veining, the proper host rock, and so forth. So we're on pins and needles waiting for the first. So I think it was about almost 800 meters of drilling, I believe, we put into it. And then now we have to take a little break, because spring has come and the roads are getting muddy and hard to get around on. In fact, impossible to get around on. So we'll probably be at that later in the spring, maybe early summer, to continue drilling. But I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these assay results on these fairly significant intersections that we've gotten of these proper altered rocks. Mm-hmm. The neat thing about Gold Creek is that the mineralization is associated with an iron formation there. And originally, when the Matawan Belt was looked at, it was called the Matawan Iron Belt because there's several occurrences of these huge banded iron formations. And within those banded iron formations are these little dike rocks, porphyries, and they just stand out beautifully in the drill core. They come out and they're brilliant red, altered by hematite and potassium alteration, quartz veining, and so forth. And there will be no. This is one of those mines where may not be any waste rock if we make a sufficient discovery to go into mining. You know, iron ore can be sold, but gold ore can be processed. This is, to me, it's absolutely exciting as anything. And amongst the gold deposits in the world, the best seem to be the iron formation related ones. They for grade and consistency and size. So.
Talk a little bit about the other projects that are in your area. Other companies have had some successful results, and why you guys were so interested in getting into those districts.
Oh, well, Great Bear Resources is just to the west of our south of Otter property. They've been drilling, they being Great Bear, have been drilling on their Dixie and other occurrences there, and getting phenomenal grades over great widths. And of course, that's not a, sorry about that. I'll have a sip. But Great Bear are probably developing the premier gold discovery area for Canada right now. And of course, we're just off to the east of them. Similar types of structures, definitely similar types of geology. And definitely where Great Bear used the same SGH soil sampling program as we've adopted, they've had great success in showing the strength of their mineralization with those anomalies, drilling them, and of course following up with great structural interpretations to have literally kilometers of strike length of mineralization. The geophysics suggests that if we have mineralization on the south of Otter, it's going to go likewise. We'll be going on for kilometers too. So it's it's one of those things right now where it's technology is working in our favor, and we certainly hope that we can have a similar type of discovery that Great Bears have.
Yeah, and we see Great Bear here on one of your slides on your deck, and we also see Pure Gold Mining, which is a company that we follow as well. That's found some pretty good projects. So some really good finds in the areas that you guys are working.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's highly encouraging. So where are you guys in terms of your exploration timeline? Can you kind of paint the picture of, where you are, like on the Lassonde curve? Are you guys more early stage discovery at this point, still looking for your resource? And if so, what do you think your overall timeline is going to be?
We're definitely down near at the discovery stage, and we've found all of the harbingers of a good discovery on south of Otter. There are occurrences on our Gold Creek, but I think that we're the first group that's taking a more total picture on that zone. We've looked at kilometers of strike length. We've been assembling a fantastic project portfolio, or at least a property portfolio. So if anything, we're going to see ourselves on a great breakout, and that's what's so exciting about being part of Portofino.
Yeah. So what are some of your plans for drilling? I know you guys have some additional drill programs going on. Maybe you can elaborate on those for our viewers.
Yeah, certainly the occurrences on south of Otter are being targeted right now, and the fellows are laying out the drill targets. And I believe, David, we're just about completed the new permit for south of Otter for the drilling.
Yeah, it's in process right now. So I expect that sometime this summer we will be commencing our initial drill program on the south of Otter property. We do have some very good targets that Steve has mentioned based on the work we've done over the last year. And certainly companies have been working in the area as well in similar geological platforms. So we've got an awful lot to go on to commence that program. We are just finishing up the drill program on the Gold Creek property. So we're still a pretty small company, market cap of 10 million. So we can only manage so much, but we've got a good portfolio of projects to be able to move and advance here based on the work that we've done over the last year and a half or so. The Gold Creek one, I expect that this was just a fairly short program, just trying to get this in prior to the spring breakup. And as Steve mentioned, we're right at that point now. I think once we've got the assay results back, those some of the core has gone into the lab, so we're expecting that to come out fairly shortly. The initial results, and then we'll determine next stage on that. So we could well be drilling again on the Gold Creek property later this summer, and we are fully permitted on that property right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So on some of the properties you have your permits in place. I'm assuming on some properties as you advance it closer into the actual development stage, you guys would need to go and get your permits for those as well, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And can you talk about some of the samples that you guys have seen? I know some of the stuff you said is currently being assayed or under review, but some of the early stage results that you guys have seen, so people know, what you're seeing on some of these properties in terms of like your samples that you're just, picking off the ground or.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, the Gold Creek property in particular, there has been a number of historical drill holes, and 10, 20 years ago, I guess, there were a couple of holes that were drilled of 40 meters in length, 4 grams per ton, were results that came back on one of the holes. One of the other holes was about 4 grams of gold per ton as well, over about 20 meters. And in addition, there was a 1-ton sample that was bulk sample that returned just about 10 grams per ton. So between that and work that we've done, we definitely came up with some multi-ounce grab samples on surface. We discovered a new zone outside of the zones that we were aware of and are continuing to expand upon. So as well as some silver and some copper. So there could well be a polymetallic type of resource that we may be digging into. Lots of good showings there. On the Red Lake property last summer, we had a couple of grab samples that were in the 12 to 16 gram per ton range. Those were samples that were picked up from surface. And we did a very small trenching program. We were able to dig down a little bit. There's not much outcropping on the property, but the outcropping that we did found, we were able to get in and uncovered about a meter length of about a gram of material of gold. In addition, the soil sampling that came back was very good levels, both in gold and silver and some copper as well. And in and around us, there are definitely both base metal and gold discoveries outside of our property, and they're similar geological characteristics. So we're working off of some very good initial work and some good. We're quite enthusiastic about that initial work and being able to hone in on some drill targets here.
Yeah, I think the good news there is, one, you're looking at polymetallic, which would be great because you can either count some of the other metals as byproduct credits, or, if those other minerals are doing really well, it's really becomes an asset on your balance sheet that maybe you hadn't accounted for when you went looking for the gold. Did have a question for you there. Are some of your projects, do you think they'll be at depth? Do you think some will be open pit, or do you have any idea of kind of, where the anomalies extend to?
Well, yeah, certainly the south of Otter property is too early to say one way or the other. The fact that it's so overburden covered, we don't really have a good handle on the overall geology. We have got excellent high definition aeromagnetic surveys completed, which allowed us to get a good picture of what the structures are like there, and certainly the geology you're seeing here is very generalized. Within that fold structure that we've seen there, probably 3 or 4 refold structures also as we get more and more detailed knowledge coming in. But certainly, if you see the where we talk about our new gold discovery, that was our multi-gram quartz vein sample that really got us excited very early in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So that as we drill, as we get more information and start compiling and modeling what we're doing here, we'll be able to start looking forward to what type of project this is shaping up into. Certainly, if you look around the area, there's open pit mines in the Red Lake area. There's underground high-grade vein deposits. There's, of course, the famous Red Lake gold mine, which, of course, is one of the highest gold mines in the world. Mm-hmm. That and the Campbell mine, they're all an incredible complex of mining operations, and that camp is still open to discoveries everywhere. It's not as mature as the Timmins Kirkland Lake camp, even though it's been operating almost as long as that. So I see it as having at least that kind of potential. A little bit of sort of like a little Nevada up in northwestern Ontario for gold.
I want to turn attention real quick to your lithium project, and I'm going to show on screen a chart of the lithium price. It's had a nice uptick here in 2020 and into 2021. So we're not quite at where we were before, but it looks like we're probably recovering there and overall in terms of lithium price, which is a good sign to see. How does that play out in terms of the project you have for lithium?
Well, there's certainly, prices increased. Some of the statements by the Biden administration in terms of infrastructure, electric vehicle production and increase, and focusing on the battery materials area has definitely increased investor interest pretty dramatically. So that has drawn attention to our project, and it's allowed us to raise some money. I think that we're going to be able to raise a significant amount more as we move forward here. And so we have, we're just really sort of on hold with that project up until the end of the year, early this year. We then got a team out. We were a little bit constrained last year due to the COVID situation, but we were able to get our geological team in Argentina out to the property to do a secondary stage sampling as well as a geophysical survey. And those results have been compiled and actually, sort of next stage from here now, we had some very good results come back from that, which is showing that we've got a good size property there with some very significant lithium grades. And the next stage for that will be drilling. And I expect we will have drills on the property within the next 30 to 60 days.
Oh, that would be great news. So you have some potential drill results this year for your shareholders.
Absolutely.
So lithium is a huge market. It's used in the EV industry. Of course, it's a major battery technology. It's also used in the military as well as an armament, as armor plating. I saw when I was doing my research on lithium. So lithium is definitely used in quite a few applications. What drew you to the lithium market and to this project in particular?
Well, the property in particular is located very close to Neolithium. Neolithium has a market cap of close to $400 million now. They're at the feasibility study stage. We're within 15 kilometers of that property. We are also within what they call the lithium triangle, the sort of South American lithium triangle, which includes Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. In Catamarca province in particular is a producing lithium area, and that's where our property is located. And in addition, we hold the 100% interest in the whole lithium lake or lithium salar. No one else is sharing that property, or no one else is sharing that salar, and so we're able to develop that independently of anyone else. So there's multiple reasons. It's also come up with some very good grades, And it looks like from our geophysical survey that we've got some very good depths to that. So next step is really to drill that out. In addition, I guess where we have some really strong interest in this is some new technologies. There's lithium ion exchange technologies, very ecologically friendly, very cost efficient. And we will be doing some testing of our material within several of these technologies very shortly. So that to us is really quite exciting. And I think we're on the cusp of something very, very interesting here for our shareholders, for sure.
Yeah, great. Since you're down in Argentina, I really wanted to ask, what is it like working with the local mining officials, and how is that mining district?
Well, it's we've had some good success. We're very well connected there. By background, we've been there a number of years, so we've got some good teams on the ground. By way of background, Steve was the president of Northern Orion, I guess, a number of years ago. Northern Orion held the Agua Rica project, which was sold ultimately to Yamana for $700 million. That property and that project was located in Catamarca province. So Steve's background has got some good background in Argentina. We have a team on the ground that has had some very good success geologically as well as logistically. And we're very comfortable there and have a good relationship with the community. Where our project is located, it's in the middle of the Andes. There's very few people around. So we're really not affecting anyone in the area. We have good local, as far as the locals go, very good local support. We have a local drilling group that will very likely be coming in to drill our property out. And so I think, the combination of where we're located, how we're moving forward, we're certainly looking to keep with some of these newer technologies that are coming online to have a much smaller footprint than historically some of the bigger lithium producing groups have displayed. And so, I think that there will be some very good acceptance for moving this forward.
Hey, great. So you guys have a plethora, I think, of resources, not just gold, which is really interesting. When we started looking into you, you've got the gold, but you also look at maybe some silver, copper on your Canadian projects, and some iron mixed in there as well, which would be nice. And then also looking at some lithium. So you guys are pretty well diversified. What do you think the outlook is overall for your company for the rest of the year in terms of developing these resources? And what message do you want to leave for the viewers about Portofino?
Yeah, I guess number one, we're still very small cap at $10 million market cap. We're compared to our peers, and just in the lithium space, we're a fraction of their value. We are at this point, and I would say the same thing on the gold, silver, the precious mineral space in northwestern Ontario. We're still a very small player from that perspective. We are on the cusp of drill results coming in from the Gold Creek property. We're on the cusp of commencing a drill program in Argentina on the lithium side of things, and that's generally what you referring back to the Lassonde curve. The discovery or the recognition that there's resources here. We're on the cusp of that curve, we believe, and so I think that this could be a very transformative year for Portofino Resources. And so we're very excited by that, for sure.
Yeah, it does sound exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. Those are definitely the companies we're looking for. We're either looking for the near-term producers for our investors, or those exploration companies are looking for the next resource. We know that it's been stated by several capital companies that we may hit a gold cliff in terms of proven and probable resources here about 2030. So the next stage of exploration companies building up their resource and bringing those to market, I think, are going to be great targets for people looking to invest in the space. And those are certainly some of the companies that we're looking at as well. And the fact that you guys have some optionality with some of the other base metals and also a heating up lithium market, I think it could be very attractive for a lot of investors who are looking for optionality and looking for a company that has more than one deposit, which is always important. Can you speak to, the last question I want to ask you guys, can you speak to the power of having multiple deposits and what that can do for an exploration companies, especially yours are so early stage into this process?
Oh.
You go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Well, certainly one of the things that you want to have here is you want to apply a little bit of portfolio theorem to your holdings. Not only do you want to have sort of diverse geography, but it's also good to have diverse metal holdings. You know, markets can be counter-cyclical. We certainly know that if you have the gold market, it doesn't necessarily mean your copper is going to be doing well. In fact, traditionally, they are counter-cyclical, and one would preclude the other. So if you're in terms of the lithium space, what's interesting for us right now is the fact that they're on the other side of the equator. The work season and so forth is perfectly complements what we're doing in Canada, where during the seasons of breakup and fall and so forth, when you're really it's really difficult for starting programs to get going. In Argentina, for instance, our team was just down there. They conducted the geophysical survey that really was quite promising, indicative, and it certainly gave us good drill targets. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And the resampling areas that we did and expansion of the sampling areas certainly confirmed that property's got excellent lithium grades, excellent potassium grades, and isn't hampered by high magnesium. So all those things are positives for us right now. So we've got ourselves a portfolio, and we can manage that quite nicely. If the opportunity comes, and David, you could speak to this too. Of divesting ourselves of certain assets, it certainly is a way that we can have a non-dilutive way of financing the company. So it certainly is something that's a good way and a great approach to do it. And it's sort of like calling ourselves a mini mining house, I guess you'd say.
Yeah,
for investors go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, I'll just add one more thing to that. And Steve and I have been around for more than a couple of years in the space. We're probably in the capital market space for 30 plus years for sure. We've been involved in a number of divestitures, acquisitions, spin-outs, etc. So, ideally, one or more of our properties gets to the stage where it can survive on its own. We would divest as in the form of a dividend to our shareholders, create another company, and be able to move that forward. Alternatively, the ultimate for a junior, I suppose, is to be bought out or have one of their properties bought out. That means some pretty good returns to shareholders. So we're certainly a hybrid type of a company, but we've got both the geological and management expertise in a number of different mineral spaces, and so we're quite comfortable working in all of these areas.
Good. So how would investors find you if they wanted to trade you on the markets?
So our symbol in Canada is POR for Portofino Resources. We also are listed on the OTCQB, and the symbol there is PFFOF. If you happen to be in Europe, we're trading on the Frankfurt Exchange under POTA as well. But Portofino Resources, POR, is the symbol that I think most people would be looking us up, certainly in Canada.
Okay. Well, David, Stephen, it was great talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining the program, and very excited here for your company. And I think our subscribers will take a lot out of this. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, Robert. Appreciate it.